I was in the garage on a Saturday afternoon, sorting my tools back into their places, when I heard my wife's car turning into our driveway. There was nothing unusual about that by itself. But what was unusual was the second car door slamming right after hers. Then 3 more doors, and right after that came the unmistakable burst of kids' screams, like a small zombie horde had been released. My wife walked into the house first. Her sister, Naomi, followed right behind her, and then the 3 kids stormed in. Maxwell was 8, Lily was 6, and the youngest, Bella, was 4. Up to that point, I had seen them exactly twice, and both times ended with something broken and at least one child crying. And although the one crying was always one of them, I myself had been very close. "Hey," I said, setting the wrench aside. "Didn't know we were having company today." "We need to talk," my wife said, and the way she said it made me set the tool down very slowly and deliberately. Naomi was already comfortably settled on our couch, and the kids immediately scattered through the living room, grabbing anything they could get their hands on. Maxwell snatched a photo frame off the shelf. Lily was running across the couch, bouncing on the pillows. And little Bella somehow managed to dig up a permanent marker, and to my horror, I saw her heading straight toward the wall with purpose. "Hey," I intercepted the marker just before the tip touched the paint. "Maybe we can agree on some rules here?" "They're just kids," Naomi replied without even looking up from her phone. I handed the marker to my wife, she put it on a high shelf, and turned back to me. "So, what's going on?" I asked. My wife crossed her arms. "Naomi and I talked. We want to start spending weekends together, reconnecting, going out, having some fun." "Well, that sounds nice," I said cautiously. "So we need you to watch the kids," Naomi added, still not taking her eyes off the screen. "Every Saturday and Sunday we'll drop them off around 10 in the morning, and we'll pick them up whenever we're done." I blinked. "Every weekend?" I clarified. "Yes," my wife confirmed. "This is important to us." At that moment Maxwell had managed to find my vintage baseball and was throwing it full force at the wall. "Really throwing it. First of all," I said, walking over and carefully taking the ball out of his hands, "this is not a toy. And second, I have my own weekend plans too. House stuff, meeting friends. And sometimes I just want a quiet Saturday. I can't babysit every single weekend." "Not willing to be the nanny?" Naomi snorted. "They're family, not strangers." "That doesn't change the reality," I answered. "My weekends are already packed. And the ones that aren't, I want to spend, well, living my own life." My wife's face tightened. "This is important to me," she repeated. "I understand," I said, keeping my voice calm. "But you're talking about every weekend, unlimited, with no end date. You're asking for a major commitment, without even discussing it with me first. That's not exactly fair." "Fair?" Naomi stood up. "Family is supposed to help family. That's what being a man means." A tight pressure formed in my chest. Being a man means having boundaries and not letting people take advantage of you. "Take advantage?" My wife's voice jumped a pitch higher. "It's just a few hours on the weekend. Every weekend," I reminded her. "For free, while you two go clubbing or whatever. So now you're too good to help family?" Naomi stepped closer, and my wife seemed to support every word with a small approving nod. "I didn't say that. I said I can't provide free childcare every single Saturday and Sunday. Those are different things. You're being selfish," my wife said, her tone suddenly colder. I looked at her, then at Naomi, then at Maxwell, who was now trying to pry open my toolbox. "No," I said, "I'm being reasonable. If you want guaranteed weekend childcare, hire someone." "We can't afford that," Naomi declared. "Then maybe you can't afford going out every weekend," I said. My wife's face flushed a deep red. "I just can't believe what I'm hearing. She's my sister. And I'm your husband," I replied calmly. "And logically, you'd think you'd at least ask for my opinion before agreeing to something on my behalf. I don't have to ask for permission when it comes to helping family." "That's not helping," I said quietly. "That's you volunteering me for something without even checking with me first. That's completely different." For a moment, the room fell silent, aside from the kids arguing over who got to play with my tape measure. My wife took a step toward me, and something hardened in her eyes, something cold, with a hint of challenge. "Act like a man, or get out of the house," she said clearly, almost theatrically. Behind her, Naomi smirked, like she had been waiting for that exact line. Something clicked inside me. It wasn't anger. It was a sudden, very sharp moment of clarity. "All right," I said evenly. "Then I'll go." My wife laughed. Not nervously, but genuinely, like I had just said something ridiculous. "Oh, so now you're putting on a show?" "No show," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm simply doing what you just told me to do." I opened my contacts and scrolled through a few names. My wife stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "What are you doing?" she finally asked. "Leaving," I said plainly. "You gave me 2 options. I'm choosing one." I tapped Logan's contact. After 2 rings, he picked up. "Hey, Logan, remember you mentioned that spare room? Is it still available?" The smile vanished from my wife's face instantly. "Perfect. I'll be there in a couple of hours." "Thanks." I ended the call and looked at my wife. She stood there, mouth open, but nothing was coming out. "You're being ridiculous," she finally managed. "Maybe," I replied, "but you stated your condition very clearly." Naomi jumped up from the couch. She didn't mean what she said. "Oh, she did," I said, walking past them toward the bedroom. "And now I'm doing exactly what I was told." "Wait," my wife shouted, but I was already pulling a suitcase out from under the bed. Everything felt strangely distant. I started packing, not frantically, not angrily, just focused and methodical. A few changes of clothes, toiletries, my laptop, documents, everything I might need if my absence lasted longer than expected. I was so absorbed in packing that I didn't hear her come into the room. When I turned, she was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, but instead of victory on her face, there was fear. "You're really doing this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Yes," I answered simply. "I'm leaving, just like you said." I said that in anger. "I didn't mean it. You stated it very clearly," I said, slowly zipping the suitcase. "And you said it in front of witnesses, including your sister." "I'm not going to pretend I didn't hear it." "You're overreacting." "No, I'm responding to the ultimatum you gave. You said, be a man, or get out. So I'm not staying somewhere where I'm not respected." I was angry," she whispered. I lifted my head. "And what? When you're angry, it's acceptable to tell someone to leave their own home. You think that's okay?" She looked away. "You should have known I didn't mean it." "Based on what?" I asked. "Your tone? Your sister laughing behind you? Or the fact that you repeated it twice?" My wife bit her lip, her usual signal that she knew she'd messed up. "Just don't go," she said more quietly. "Why?" I asked. "What? Why do you want me to stay?" I repeated. "Because you feel guilty? Because you're embarrassed in front of Naomi? Because you don't want conflict? Or because you actually see me as a partner you value?" She didn't answer, and that silence said more than anything she could have explained. "All right," I said, picking up the suitcase. "No." She grabbed my arm sharply. "Please, don't go. We can talk. We've been talking for 10 minutes. She inhaled shakily. "Fine. I was wrong." I paused. She didn't admit fault often. "Wrong about what, exactly?" I clarified. She swallowed. "About what I said. And about not talking to you beforehand. And about expecting me to watch the kids every single weekend?" She winced. "I thought you'd agree. So you just didn't ask?" Her face faded into an embarrassed, grayish expression. "Looks like it," she muttered. "It's not, looks like. It's a definite yes. You knew perfectly well I'd say no, that's why you decided to make the decision for me." She didn't say a word. "So what's going to change?" I kept my eyes on her. "If I stay, what exactly will be different? Will you actually listen to me? Or are you just waiting until I calm down so everything can go back to the way you want it?" She looked like every word I said cut straight through her. I can't say for sure. That's exactly why I decided to leave." She inhaled sharply through her teeth. "You can't just walk out over something so small." "This isn't small. It's a boundary," I answered steadily. "It's about basic respect. If you're willing to risk our relationship just so I'll babysit your sister's kids every single weekend for free, then we're not looking in the same direction." "No, that's not what I meant." I exhaled slowly. "Maybe not, but I need space. Some quiet." She grabbed my wrist again. "We can get through this together." "We can." I gently pulled my hand free without raising my voice. "Just not today." I walked past her with my suitcase. She stayed silent, this time not out of anger, but because she finally realized this was actually happening. In the hallway, Naomi stood there staring at me, genuinely surprised. "You two seriously fought over that?" she said. "Yes," I replied without stopping. "But they're just kids," she protested. "It's not about the kids," I said. "It's about principles and respect." Maxwell and Lily were sitting on the floor, spinning my flashlight in their hands. Bella watched me with her big wide eyes. I opened the door. "Take care, guys," I told the kids. "See you around." And I walked out. Outside, the weather was warm and still. I took a deep breath, and felt the tightness in my chest ease just a little. I had no answer for what would happen next. I didn't know if I'd come back, or if we'd find a way to fix things. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't leaving because I wanted to. I left because she told me to, and I finally took her words seriously. Logan lived about 20 minutes away. He was the kind of friend who never forced explanations before you were ready. So when I showed up at his door, he just opened it and said, "Beer's in the fridge. Your room's at the end of the hall." And that was enough. Late that evening I sat on the edge of the bed in that unfamiliar but temporary room. I looked at my suitcase and suddenly realized how drastically everything had changed. I didn't know if this was a pause, a breakup, or just another crisis. I only knew one thing. I couldn't return after being kicked out, even if it was said in anger. My phone vibrated. Wife, 7 missed calls. Wife, 12 messages. Naomi, 3 messages. I put the phone on the nightstand without opening it. Because I knew. The moment I read them, I get pulled back into a new wave of arguments, explanations, and justifications. And right now, I needed space. I fell asleep around 2 in the morning. The next morning, another call woke me. My mother-in-law's name lit up the screen. I inhaled and picked up. "Hello." Her voice was unusually calm. "She's with me right now. She says you walked out." I did. "Why?" "Because she told me to leave." A few seconds of heavy silence. "What did you do to her?" she finally asked. I almost laughed. "Nothing. She wanted me to babysit Naomi's kids every weekend. I told her I couldn't." She answered with, "Be a real man or get out." So I got out. My mother-in-law exhaled, not angry, not judgmental, but like someone who wasn't surprised at all. "I'll come by tonight," she said. "We'll talk, calmly. All of us." "All right." She hung up. I spent the day at Logan's, helping him fix a few things in the garage. It distracted me a little, but the thoughts kept circling. Did I overreact? Should I have stayed and smoothed things over? Is this the start of a serious crack, or already the end? When dusk settled, my mother-in-law called again. "I'm home. Come over." I got in the car and drove in silence. The road was familiar to every detail, but for the first time I was heading toward my own house not as a husband, but as a guest. When I walked into the living room, my wife was on the couch, eyes red from crying. Naomi sat beside her, sulking like she was the wronged one. My mother-in-law stood with her arms crossed, assessing all of us with a sharp, knowing look. "Please sit down," she said. I sat. My mother-in-law looked at her daughter. "Let's start with you. Explain what happened." My wife wiped her tears. I said something awful, and I didn't think he would take it literally. I was angry. And I didn't mean for him to leave. I just wanted him to support me. That's all. My mother-in-law turned to me. "Do you want to add anything?" "Yes. I don't mind helping sometimes. I don't mind being part of the family. But every single weekend, that is not helping, that's an obligation." And the way they talked to me, the way they presented it as a done deal, and the way they humiliated me. I cannot ignore that. My mother-in-law nodded. Then she turned back to Naomi. "And what do you have to say?" Naomi shrugged. "I just want a little freedom on the weekends. Kids are hard. I thought family was supposed to help." My mother-in-law walked toward her slowly. "And the last 3 times I offered to take your kids for the day, you refused." Naomi blinked. Because you I did not let them have candy for dinner?" her mother asked coolly. "Because I told Maxwell he couldn't jump on my table? Because I didn't allow Lily to color all over my bathroom wall?" Naomi's face turned red. "I just want them to be able to be kids." My mother-in-law let out a short, dry laugh. "No, what you want is for other people to take over raising your children. And you were perfectly happy to stir up your sister against her own husband instead of trying to find a solution." My wife dropped her head. "Mom, be quiet," her mother said. "I'm talking." I almost jumped. I had never heard my mother-in-law speak like that. She turned to me. She was wrong. And Naomi was wrong. And you had every right to leave after what they said. I blinked. I had expected anything, but definitely not that. "If you decide to come back home," she continued, "it must be under the condition that you are respected. No ultimatums. No forced obligations. No manipulation." She turned back to her daughter. "And you," her voice became even stricter, "must never say, 'Be a man,' again. You have no idea how insulting that is. And if you ever again tell your husband to get out, You better be prepared for him to walk out and not come back." My wife started crying again. "Mom, I know, I was awful. I thought he was my partner and that he would support me." "Partnership does not mean using a person," her mother answered coldly. "I know." My mother-in-law sighed. "So now it's between the two of you." She walked out of the room. The room fell silent. My wife lifted her eyes. They were red and swollen. "Please, do not leave me. I am sorry. I will say it as many times as I need to. I was wrong. I know I was unfair. I know I was cruel. Just, come back home. Please." I took a breath. "I will come back," I said. "But only if we set clear boundaries. And if no one, ever again, makes decisions for me, especially not while humiliating me." She nodded quickly, almost gasping for air. Yes, I promise. No more ultimatums. No pressure. I promise." I went back home that evening. But with one thing absolutely clear. If this happens again, next time I will leave for good.